On today's show, it's the Locked On NBA Squad Show. We take over the feed of your favorite show, and we're all in here talking about Fred VanVleet's injury. We talk about things that we want to see at Media Day. We talk about what the Thunder need to do to level up this season. All coming up right here. Locked On NBA Squad starts now.
You are talking ball with the NBA Squad Show, sponsored by Game Time. From the Warriors to the Lakers, the Knicks to the Heat, and everyone else in the league, the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bring you all the scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive look across the league. Trash talk and big takes included. No holding back, we're giving the green light. It's time to talk NBA Squad Show.
And welcome into the Locked On NBA Squad Show, where we take over the feed of your favorite show. I'm Nick Angstead, host of Locked On NBA Game Night, Locked On Mavs. I'm joined by some of the greats on the Locked On Podcast Network. From Locked On Magic, Philip Rossman-Reich. How are the Magic? Is it magic down there?
It's magical. Well, you know, we're eager to get this thing started after the summer they had.
From the reigning champion Thunder, Locked On Thunder, Rylan Stiles. Does the trophy still shine, or have all the fingerprints dinged it a little bit?
They have a professional cleaner every night, so it's still shiny and new.
And the host that everyone loves to hate, Matt Moore from Locked On NBA Daily, Locked On Nuggets. Matt Moore, how goes Denver?
Good. They're excited. I'm the only person that has a fall happening right now. The three of you are with no fall. So, the leaves are changing. It's like 70 degrees outside. It's crisp. It's pumpkin spice season for those that partake. It's great.
I'll join you in December here from Dallas.
What is a fall?
January 1st.
We may end up somewhere completely different, like we do on the Squad Show. But let's talk about Fred VanVleet. Let's talk about his injury and how it affects the entire Western Conference. Because to me, I think with the Fred VanVleet injury, they lost their most valuable player. Like, Kevin Durant is their best player for sure. Amen Thompson is probably their most important player going forward. Şengün could be their best player this season if KD takes a little dip down because of age. But I think Fred VanVleet was their most important player. Danny Cunningham, Locked On Cavs, joined in. As soon as I was done with the introductions,
that's how I wanted to do it. I wanted to time it up to just make you look bad.
Are the Rockets no longer contenders?
I mean, I think that they're going to be really good, but I don't view them as a team right now because of the FVV injury. And even before so, I just think it's really unlikely that somebody other than Denver or OKC comes out of the West. I don't think that they're capable of winning the title this year. That doesn't mean they're not going to be really, really good. I think they are going to be really, really good. But I just don't know that they're going to have enough to hold up in the playoffs, because I just think that ball handling and playmaking really matters in that setting. And without Fred, I think the Rockets they don't have enough in that category now. Of course, they can go out and make a move, but teams that make moves in season very rarely win the championship too. So I would say no.
So I think maybe one of the interesting questions here is to frame it. We're basing this off of known knowns. I have a really hard time with preseason, because everyone gets together and we all agree these teams are going to be good, these teams are going to be bad, these teams are going to be mid. And then oftentimes, we all knew the Thunder were going to be great, and they were great. They were better than we thought, though, right? And we all knew that certain teams were going to be bad. We didn't know they were going to be that bad, right? The Jazz weren't supposed to be that bad, but it's those outcomes that we don't expect. And what's part of it is you almost have to plug in. I do this kind of exercise with every team I evaluate in preseason. How many ifs do you have? And the good news for the Rockets is actually that they have a lot of positive ifs in this situation. Yes, losing FEV is terrible. If Amen Thompson makes a huge jump and he just his 3-point shot comes around and he is that two-way menace, okay, that fundamentally reshapes what they're going to be. If he's a most improved player leader, that changes their conversation. If Alperen Şengün surges off of the run by Turkey this summer.
Hold on, I'm going to call Jackson real quick just for a correct pronunciation of
Turkey. Then if he becomes that player, that can fundamentally reshape things. If Jabari Smith Jr. makes this kind of a leap, there are these kind of things that can compensate for the Fred VanVleet injury. They are going to miss the setting the floor, the ability to be a guard that's I will bring the ball up, I will give the ball to Kevin Durant, and I can space appropriately around him and act as a secondary playmaker. They do not have that right now. And that's big, but it also, their formula was always going to be kind of Thunderish, where it's hey, we've got like one amazing individual isolation player, and then like our general offense is pretty good because we always get stops, and so we're always going against a rush defense. But really, the answer is like we win because of our defense. Like that was always going to be their answer. So I think that I still consider them to be a serious threat. But now it's like you don't have the finished product coming in. You're going to have to figure that out by the end of the year.
And it just became harder for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like with Houston, they need that guy, though. It's not like they're a veteran group that's been there before. Yes, they made the playoffs last year. Yes, they were the 2 seed. And I think we kind of forget how good they were last year. So I don't think they'll take a step down to being like, they're still going to be very good, as everyone is saying here. But Fred VanVleet does something that I think very few players on that Rockets team do. He's a 3-point shooter. He's a legitimate 3-point threat. They were, I believe they were near the bottom of the league in 3-point shooting last year. Not as bad as my team, of course, because no one's as bad as my team. But they were not.
There's a team in Dallas that may rival that this year.
We'll see.
Okay, then do it for 10 years after this year, and then
do 10 years for 10 more years. But when Houston got to the playoffs, it's one thing to get through the regular season. Getting to the playoffs, that's where they really need a guy like Fred VanVleet to kind of balance things out for their star players to be star players. And, Houston's going to be fine. They'll probably still be a home court advantage team. Like Matt said, they're going to have to figure some things out now. But their goal is to win a championship. And I just don't know if they have it right now. Again, maybe guys develop, but that's not a team with a lot of like true point guards on that team. Like Fred VanVleet was one of one to make that system work.
And I think one of the things too that matters here is you have to look at what their potential path would be. And Oklahoma City is very obviously standing in their way. And I don't think that you can beat the Thunder unless you have a lot of really good ball handling and playmaking because of the amount of chaos that their defense causes. I think that you just need to have multiple guys on the floor at basically all times that can take care of the basketball, that can create for themselves, that can create for others. Like that, I think, is one of the biggest things that they make opponents do. They're beatable when you can do that. It's just not very many teams have that formula. And when you take away a guy like Fred VanVleet, I just think it's really hard for the Rockets to get to that point where they have enough in that category.
Hayes over on Locked On NBA Daily had the answer for what they should do. And it's been rattling around my brain. Making the money work is very perilous. But Colin Sexton is like the answer here. That is like the guy. If they are willing to part with one of the centers, Clint Capella, Steven Adams, like let's say Steve-O falls off the cliff this year because Steve-O was amazing last year, but it's always about how many miles, injury status can he play.
I think they call it a ledgie in New Zealand.
A what? A legion?
The cliff. I think they call it a ledgie in New Zealand.
A ledgie. Okay. If he slipped off the ledgie and is no longer as important because they have Capella as kind of a backup and they're playing more small ball, right? You can use that as a big chunk of this along with Jayshawn Tate and get a lot of the way there. But that to me is like the type of player that you want if you're like Colin Sexton. Well, yeah, you're not going to get a replacement level Fred VanVleet. There aren't any. Like you're not going to get one. So the key is going to have to be to try and find somebody who can like amalgamate those things that he does, which I think Colin Sexton could.
Yeah, I think that they're still like legitimate threats in the sense of winning a lot of games in the regular season, being a home court advantage team, winning a playoff series. But when it comes to contender status, to me, it would be a disappointment to see Denver or Oklahoma City lose to Houston. And that in itself makes them not a contender to me. Whereas before this injury, they realistically could have beaten one of those teams in the postseason. But now it just really is hard to see the path for them to get through the West. And they now have a bunch of question marks, just like the rest of the non-Thunder Denver teams.
On Locked On Mavs, we were trying to put together the tiers of the West. I think it's Thunder in their tier on their own. Then probably Nuggets tier on their own.
Yeah.
Then it's like Minnesota, Houston, Clippers, Lakers, Mavs.
Not the Mavs.
Not the Mavs.
When's
Were
Kyrie
you just
coming
like
back?
checking to make sure that we were listening when you said
You guys-
Mavs?
Mavs fans like really think this team that like Isaac Harris from Locked On Mavericks was like talking today about like, well, yeah, I think they could be like a 6 seed before Kyrie comes back. D'Angelo Russell's their starting point guard. And he's their only one.
You're just talking about you're just talking about the Rockets getting Colin Sexton, and that was going to be like the answer for them.
They have a Man Thompson.
They don't even
have Kevin Durant.
Okay.
We have a Man Thompson at home. His name is Cooper Flagg. He's 6'9".
That's banking a lot on Anthony Davis playing a full season too.
I mean, obviously. I mean, if he's not going to play a full season, then we're not even talking about them as a play-in team. But they're deep. They're a really deep team, and Cooper Flagg's a big X factor. Like, we don't know exactly what he's going to be year one, but what if he's Blake Griffin year one? You know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden, that's huge.
I want to go back. Let's not go down making this about the Mavericks always.
Today's episode of the Locked On NBA Squad Show is brought to you by Skims. Skims, the underwear I'm wearing currently right now. When I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard about their quality merchandise from friends and family before, but I had to give it a try. They sent me a free pair, and I went and got some myself. That is the best endorsement I can give, is that I got something for free, and I went and bought it, spent money on it, because these boxers, these briefs are the best that I've ever had. I keep going back and buying them again because they hold their shape. They're great for an active lifestyle, or if you're just a podcaster sitting around all day and watching film and doing stuff, you can do that as well. Love the Skims underwear. You can go check them out and see all the other different kinds of products that they have. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com. Let them know that we sent you after you place your order. Select podcast in the survey. Select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. So go check it out at Skims Men's and skims.com. They also have stores too, so you can go check it out and see what they have there. Again, it's skims.com. Select podcast in the drop-down menu after you place your order at skims.com.
I want to go back to I think where Houston is, because I want to make the case that they're in that tier 2.
With Denver?
Yeah. So they're the 2 seed last year. They won the games. Now, a lot of those were they had a stellar record versus teams, the elite teams in the league, and we were all like, yeah, that's not going to hold. And then what do you know? It didn't hold. But I actually was pretty encouraged by that first round series versus the Warriors, because if that young team had gotten in there versus the veteranship of those creaky old dudes and just fallen apart, it would have been like, hey, you may not be 16 players, but they actually like stepped up and responded. Şengün had moments. Jalen Green had a half. Like Amen Thompson had a half. Like they had these moments along the way, and then Kevin Durant honestly hasn't had a great playoff run recently, which is a little alarming, but I still look at Houston and go, is the defense going to be elite under Ime Udoka with that athleticism? Yeah. Is the offense probably still going to be really good because they were 12th last year and they had KD? Yeah. Like Fred VanVleet is the type of player that I always think is super valuable and nobody pays enough attention to. And the numbers always bear out how important he is. But if we're looking at the rest of the West, I think the rest of those teams all have like big, glaring, flaming issues more than Houston does with the loss of their, secondary playmaker, spot up floor general.
Well, if we're going to put them in the same tier as Denver, what's Denver's big, glaring, flaming issue?
I think their big, glaring, flaming issue, the bench may not be better. Like we think it's going to be better. You hope it's going to be better.
I mean, but also if you're talking about like the bench might not be better compared with this team lost their starting point guard and doesn't really have a ton of depth there. Like I just think those are in two different categories. I'm not saying that the Rockets shouldn't be at the top of that third tier, but I think it's probably not right to put them in the same tier as Denver. And it's probably not right to put Denver in the same tier as OKC.
I'm more of like that tier is very wide. And
I think Denver has done enough, not only this offseason, but having like championship equity to be in a tier above the rest of those teams that have not.
Maybe they do have an inexperience. This is the first year head coach.
How many games
with the playoff run underneath his belt already?
Yeah, really impressive playoff run.
How many games would the Rockets take off the Thunder?
7.
How many games with the Rockets?
I mean,
Soft
2.
6. Soft 6.
That's ending in 5. They can't dribble against that team.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm really curious to see what happens with the Thunder defense this year. I'm really curious to see what happens, because the second half of the year there was a lot of shakiness, and it's like, yeah, because they locked up the 1 seed in like January 1st. But a lot of the defense was also built on the back of, hey, what if no one could ever make a 3 versus them? Like, doesn't matter if how open you are, doesn't matter if you shoot from the corner, doesn't matter if you're creating good looks. Like, no, you're just going to miss every 3-pointer.
That's aura defense.
There's also the thing of like, every team has probably spent the entire summer watching the Thunder and figuring out what they do. And I think this happens with every champion because it's a copycat league. Everyone's going to try and copy what the Thunder are doing to some extent. And someone's going to figure out a way to like frustrate them. And that's probably Dallas because they seem to always frustrate them. But
Wow.
someone's gonna hit on something. And the moment they hit on it, it's going to spread like wildfire throughout the league. Now, I'm not here saying the Thunder aren't the favorites to win the championship. Like they're the favorites to win the championship again. But this is what happens in the league. I think the question for OKC as they defend their title is, how do you evolve? Like, how do you kind of keep innovating and keep doing something different? Because you can't win a title doing the exact same thing. That it doesn't work that way in the NBA.
Yeah.
Ryland,
I mean,
full story.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just a topic where it's like, they had the historically great defense last year. They brought everybody back from that historically great defense with a bunch of guys whose DNA is bred in defense. And they're going to have to make an adjustment at some point this season for sure. I mean, they're going to see teams throw different things at them, and then how they adjust from there. We don't know if it'll be positively, negatively, but we'll have to just see. So I am also very interested in it.
Are there problem of more concerns in Oklahoma City, or do you feel like they're all locked in on a second championship?
I mean, it's not locked in because it's just so hard to win a championship. And I think that it would be a little dishonest to say that. I do think they're the favorites to win it, but we've done this the last couple of champions as well. The Celtics were the obvious favorites. The Nuggets were the obvious favorites. And the Thunder now fall into that category. The only difference being that Oklahoma City has guys who can still progress. It's like you expect Chet to be a lot better this season than he was last year and play more games, frankly, although that doesn't really matter. He played all the postseason, which is what we're really talking about here. But offensively, he can get worlds better. I think Cason Wallace can get a lot better and on down the roster. So how this team internally develops is going to be the biggest story. It's going to be the difference in between repeating or falling in line with the rest of the NBA history recently of this parity era. Like if their big move this summer was to bring everybody back and bank on all these guys getting better, they're going to be right or they're going to be wrong about that. And we'll see what's going to happen this season. But I think that they made a really good bet that these guys are going to keep getting better, and particularly Chet Holmgren, and even Jalen Williams can get better as well. We saw him play way differently in the playoffs than he did in the regular season at getting downhill and getting to the free throw line more and being just a bit bigger force as a scorer. So I'm very interested in seeing them. It's not going to be a waltz your way to the championship by any means, but they are in a good position.
So I got some nerd stats here. Teams that finished number one in defensive rating the following season, their average finish since 2011-12 is 6.33 on defense the next season. So you finish number one on defense, your average finish is 6.33. 4 teams went back to back with a number one. Pacers 2012, 2013. That was 3 years in a row they did that because that Fred VanVleet Pacers team was insane. The 2016 Spurs and the 2021 Celtics. So it is just kind of interesting to see this like teams that went number one on defense and their average finish. One of the kind of conclusions I've come to is that defense is sticky, but elite defense is not. If you're a good defense, you're going to be a good defense. If you're an elite defense, you're going to be a good defense the next year. But replicating these just, oh my God, juggernaut performances is very difficult, which is interesting. Now, the Thunder's offense is still more than good enough. Like, I actually think that they probably underperformed offensively last year. And you think about Jalen Williams' development and Chet Holmgren and Nikola Jokic and like 700 million great players that they have, and they're likely to compensate for that. But I just think it's interesting in that kind of what we're talking about, which is they will have to find a new way to win. That to me was Boston's big miscalculation. And honestly, Denver's too, is if you really look back at this, what happened to these teams is they thought that they could just do it again. And you can't. Not right now. You can't just run it back. You got to be something new every season, I think, in the NBA.
But how new do you have to be? Like, how new does that new thing have to be?
And there's an argument that like the Thunder can be one of those outlier teams as hard as it is. But I mean, whenever you have a group of players that arguably can take up a whole all defensive team in this roster of its own, that I think that there is no reason to head into the season with any sort of worries really about their defense.
I think the big thing and kind of the big takeaway on that is that, you know, the other aspect of it is you just don't know what's going to happen during the season. Like, knock on wood, someone, Shea could miss 30 games, for whatever reason. It could be fine for the playoffs, but things happen during the course of the season. Every season is different. You don't just run it back because something always happens that you have to be able to navigate. And I think that'll be a factor in this as well. And then again, like, it's hard to be that intense on defense. And I think it's a test for every team defending a championship. And it gets to what Matt was saying. You have to have the energy to do it again. You have to have the desire to do it again. And you hear this from every single team that wins a championship and every single team that wins multiple championships. They always say the second one's harder than the first one because you got to find the motivation. I mentioned the problem of Moore. These are a lot of young guys and they've been very, very selfless. But at what point does someone say like, hey, I want my turn. I want to get mine a little bit. I got to, Chet and Jalen got their and J-Dub got their contracts, but does that play into things as well? How committed are they to doing this again? Or do they go into that thought process of, oh, we're not running away with the 1 seed. We're fine. We can let some things slip. We'll focus back up in March. That's where a lot of these teams slip up and get burned in the playoffs and why the champion always loses in the second round.
And that's where it's going to be difficult for the Thunder to lean on their foundation of ever since Mark's taken this job, even whenever the team was winning 20-something games. He's talked about being, 1 of 82 and 0-0 and stacking days and all that stuff that gets monotonous, but stuff that you can see that they've really bought into. Can you keep that same level of buy-in after getting your accolades? I'm not in their brains. I have no idea. But I mean, I think that the proof is in the pudding for now of that they still showed up to work every night. And we talked about it on the various shows on this network whenever they were winning 20-something games, that they were a tough, bad team back then. So they showed up then whenever there was no motivation at all. And the guys that were playing weren't going to even be in the NBA the following season. So we'll see if they show up now on the quest to defend their title.
Today's episode of the Locked On NBA Squad Show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here. NBA season is right around the corner. Make sure you're ready for kickoff or ready for the tip-off with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5. If your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app on anything. If you're looking at some NBA stuff, you can go look at awards. SGA, plus 150. He's the favorite to win MVP. Jokic, plus 350 to win MVP. He's second. Luka Doncic, plus 350. I don't think those odds are going to be any worse throughout the season. I think this is the time to get in on that one. Giannis plus 1,200. Victor Wembanyama, long shot, but plus 1,200. Same odds as Giannis. Is kind of wild. Anthony Edwards, he added a post game to his game. Plus 2,500 on Anthony Edwards. And then Kevin Durant plus 5,000. That would be insane for him to do that. Go check out and see what else is available on FanDuel. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com and get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet at FanDuel. Please gamble responsibly.
Speaking of like wanting to become something different, this is where I'm really hoping the Cavs recalibrate back, Danny, is, they were so good defensively under Bickerstaff. They're
right.
So good defensively. And I really did I kept waiting for them to turn that corner and maybe pick it up and look more like that. And that never really happened. They made a jump where they landed, I think they were top 8 at one point for a while. Like they were surging for like a little bit, but it wasn't ever like this elite defense. And to Philip's point about how much energy it takes, it's so hard to be a great offensive team if you're great on defense, because it's such a grind. And
right.
It felt like the offense became a little bit of a crutch for the Cavs. And I'd like to see them rebalance things this season a little bit.
I think that needs to be part of their goal. Because last year, and the Cavs have, since Evan Mobley's been there, they've gone into it being like, we are a defense first team. And for the first few years, they were like his second year in the league, Donovan Mitchell's first year in Cleveland, they were the number 1 team in defense. And then the year after that, I think they were 7th, but Evan Mobley missed like 8 weeks throughout that season. So like that, I just don't necessarily read into that drop off because you lost a guy that was defensive player of the year finalist the year before. But I think last year they figured out pretty early that's like, oh, we're sick offensively. Like we can just outscore teams. And Matt, I'm sure you can think back to this, but like they played a game in Denver and it was in, I believe, December when they went out west. It was right around Christmas and they beat the Nuggets like 149-135 in a game that did not go to overtime. Like they almost scored 150 points in a regulation game. And the management and the coaching staff was not too thrilled about that because they gave up 135 points. But I think there was this thing, it's like, we can just score more than anybody else in the league. And to be fair to them, they had the second most efficient offense in NBA history last year. So they could do that. But I do think some of the changes that they've made, particularly to some of the role players, do tend to lean towards defense just a little bit. Like, and you can't count on Lonzo Ball a ton because he's played 70 games in 4 years. But replacing Ty Jerome with him in the rotation is a really big step up for them defensively. And to get back to the earlier point about the Thunder, like, and even the Pacers too, those two teams didn't have anybody, certainly not role players, that opposing teams could just be like, you know what, you can't play in this game. Like, we are going to play you off the floor. And the Cavs had that last year. Like, Ty Jerome could be played off the floor because he was a traffic cone defensively. And Isaac Okoro could be played off the floor because nobody was going to defend him on the offensive end of the floor. And I think that what they wanted to do, and I do think that they accomplished this on paper. We'll see what happens when they start actually playing games. But I think what they wanted to do is just build a roster where the only guy that is truly a one-way guy is Darius Garland, because he's just small and never going to be a good defender. And I do think that, like, he and Donovan at least give effort, even if they're not great defenders. You can have a star that's a one-way guy, but they don't have role players that are one-way guys. So I do think that there will be a bit more of a commitment to the defensive end of the floor this year than there was last year.
Let's go around the room and say what you're excited about or what you want to learn from your media day. We'll start Cavs, since we're still going Cavs. What are people excited about? What do you want to learn from your media day?
I mean, I think people are excited to see what Evan Mobley looks like. So he came into media day last year and, like, looked noticeably bigger. And he didn't want to get into how much weight he gained or, you know, what kind of stuff he did to become stronger. But I do think that being stronger is something for him that should be, like, number one on the priority list. I think it's that, and I think it's tightening his handle, because ultimately, like, if Evan Mobley is and I'm not saying that I expect this to happen this year, but if Evan Mobley is a top 5 player at the end of the year, and I don't expect that to happen, but if he is, the Cavs are going to win the title this year. Like, if he takes that sort of leap, and internally the Cavs believe that is a possible thing for him. But if he does that, the Cavs are going to win the title because they're going to be awesome, because that is a huge leap for a guy entering this season as your second best player behind somebody else that was first team all NBA. So I think it's what Evan Mobley looks like. Kenny Atkinson and Kobe Altman already talked. They talked on Tuesday of this week. So we kind of got the updates about Darius Garland's health, and Max Strus is going to miss a few months. So, like, the newsier items are not going to be unveiled next week. But I think it's like, does Evan Mobley, does he pass the eye test sitting at a podium in a jersey, not actually doing anything with the basketball?
Danny is on full muscle watch for
yes. Like, remember that one year Giannis came back to Milwaukee? It's like, you are jacked now. Can we get some of that from Evan Mobley?
Full muscle watch. What about the Magic?
I mean, I think the first thing we want to know is are they going to actually make shots this year? Because that would be nice. If they could make shots at all, anywhere, just, you know, anywhere on the floor. Threes would be nice, but mid-rangers are good too.
You just wanted to play a game of knockout and just watch them. Just see.
Just like during media day, just play knockout. Just make sure the ball goes in the basket. I think the biggest thing that we want to learn or just begin to understand is how Desmond Bane's going to actually fit into this thing and get a sense, because the sense is that everyone is very, very excited about what this team can be. And I think the anticipation is probably outpaced what they'll actually do. I'm a big believer that it's a process. It's going to be a multi-year thing. They're not a championship team this year quite yet. But I think what they want to show is that they're on the path to it. So we got to see how, whether Desmond Bane actually works in the way that we all think he's going to work. And the newsiest item that we'll be watching on Monday is Jalen Suggs hasn't exactly committed that he's ready for training camp after his knee injury. That's kind of a big deal. We don't know where he's at in his recovery from the injury. And while the Magic described his knee surgery that he had in February as just cleaning up some cartilage, he had a pretty complex procedure. That's called a mosaic plasty. You can look that up. It is a pretty complex procedure. He's on the court. They've posted photos of him not wearing a brace or knee padding or anything like that. We just don't know if he's doing contact yet. We don't know if he's going to be participating in camp yet. We don't know if he's going to be ready for the preseason game in Puerto Rico yet. We just don't know where he's at. So I think that's a big, big piece of the Magic puzzle is Jalen Suggs as a spot up shooter, as the point guard in name, as the head of the snake on defense. they need him, and they need him to play 65, 70 games at least.
Who has a healthy point guard? Who?
Denver.
The Thunder.
do.
The Thunder.
The Thunder don't have a point guard.
Whoa. Shea's a great point guard.
Jalen Green looks healthy. He's a point guard, right?
He's a great guard.
Sure. I mean, he plays whatever he wants to play, but the Thunder's biggest storyline is Nikola Topic, just because there's no idea what his role looks like. I mean, this is a guy that will struggle to play off the ball. He'll struggle to defend, but he is an elite playmaker, and he showed the ability to get to the rim in summer league, although that means about as much as, a scrimmage against Eisenhower High School. So who knows what that looks like with Nikola Topic. So is the plan to kind of put him in the G League as a guy that hasn't had a lot of opportunities to play post knee injury in a live action type of game? Is the plan to put him in the back of the rotation, expecting some lopsided scores that you got a year ago with the best point differential in the NBA? Is the plan to have him be incorporated into that secondary unit to take some of the playmaking burden off of those J-Dub staggered lineups that could stall in the half court very easily last season offensively? So I think that Nikola Topic is like the only question out there for this Thunder team heading into the season.
The only question about his team is
life's good over here.
What could go wrong?
Do you like what you saw?
Everything could go wrong. I mean, the whole team could get injured. We could all die in a plane crash. Who knows? But I mean, as of this very moment,
that got dark.
Did we just learn Rylan rides on the plane with the team?
As of this, no, I do not. As of this, I actually had to drive the replay game. But as of this moment, there's not a ton. Now, there's going to be questions pop up throughout the year. They're not going to go 82-0, and they're not probably going to go wire to wire with the 1 seed. Even they might lose opening night if you look at the history of champions on ring night. So again, this is not to say the Thunder are going to be awesome, but heading into the season, that's like the biggest storyline, which is a good spot to be in.
What a storyline!
Ryland's infuriating because he manages to deflect all criticism without ever boasting, and he projects supreme confidence, but it's all like hidden behind a very who knows what could happen?
It's like measured boasting.
I'm a very measured person.
You might win. Crazy things happen. Nuggets is there'll be questions about David Adelman and kind of his plan for reshaping things because he's whole new staff. Will Jamal Murray continue to stagger with the second unit? But to me, the biggest question is just like Joker is at a point now where he has very little patience, and that he exuded that last year. I think Nikola Jokic had what is probably, it's debatable, but it's probably the best single offensive season in NBA history last season, and was miserable the entire time because he knew that team wasn't good enough. And he was constantly frustrated, and that's not how he wants to play. He does not want to average what he averaged last year. He does not think that is how basketball should be played. So if Joker comes in to media day, if he arrives, because he's going to come literally from the airport and will be there exactly 15 minutes after when he's supposed to be.
Takes a while for a horse to get from that.
And over the sea.
It's Denver. They have horse lanes.
And
Over the sea.
if he comes in and is like, I'm really excited. Like, I think that he does indicate how he feels about things. So if he comes in and is like, there's that sense of we're going for it. He'll always be like, we'll see. Like the moves are good, but you have to do it on the floor. Like he's very measured in that way. Him and Rylan will get along. But if he comes in with a better attitude, it's going to be a big deal. And it's going to be a big lift for the entire team. The other question is Christian Brown and Peyton Watson's extensions and that whole restricted free agency mess. Will
there be any talk about we're glad that we don't have to deal with Michael Porter Jr.'s podcast? Is it?
I don't think anybody will mention it because it's weird. I think they all liked Mike. He was frustrating to play with at times. And has certain issues with awareness at times. But I think, I don't think that they're glad he's gone. So I don't think that there'll be a lot of backbiting. I think one of the things about this entire thing with Porter and the podcast is the real problem is that Porter just said all the things that get said a lot in NBA locker rooms. Like he's just said those things, and people that have spent time in them know that. And that's like a real problem. And if you're going like, well, then why don't you talk about it? Because I'm literally not allowed to. Like, they're on record or they're not. So while I don't like Porter's comments are obviously like a whole big bag of, ugh, but they're also not unique to MPJ.
Did the Nets like skate when their media day with the like the biggest, most notable thing that Porter Jr. said was that he spends $250 a day in Ubers and Ubers
That
in
is
New York.
wild.
Didn't he say he's thinking of retiring?
Yeah, he said he's still thinking of retiring. We kind of knew that. Then he's also still splitting an apartment rent with his
with an ex, and he's splitting, not just straight up paying, just like
yeah.
How's
Like-
there not a reality TV camera following him at this point?
I mean, it's called, what's this podcast
How
called?
come he wasn't on starting five?
Yeah, he should be on this year's edition.
Netflix. Don't you have to get some subscriptions up?
Starting five tries to pick the most boring guys because they won't cause trouble.
For the Mavericks, I'm excited to hear the phrase Kyrie Irving is ahead of schedule. That will happen, almost guaranteed. We're doing Locked On Mavs Media Day bingo, and that's my free space.
Why?
Because they're just gonna say that. I know they're gonna say it.
But what if they don't? Like, if they don't,
Then you don't get the free space. Then you're not going to win.
Yeah, you're not gonna win the.
How much
bingo.
panic though is induced if they don't say it?
None for me, because I have low expectations for him. I think he will come back at some point during the year.
thumbnail you're going to make though is going to be panic inducing.
As the AD is not a center on that bingo card.
Yeah, though. The real thing is that I want to know the status of Anthony Davis, because has been back on the basketball court. We've heard him play 5-on-5, but he just posted a picture recently where his eye, I mean, it just looks like, I mean, he looks like a frog. The frogs, like the eyes that are on top of their head that are just like bulging out. Like, I need to know the status of that. He was recovering from the adductor injury at the end of the season. Then he had this detached retina, which I don't know. I don't think he had a detached retina. You can't see out of that eye. If you have
Is Tio Celis in Dallas now?
And so
Alien Earth reference.
I missed.
I have no idea what that is.
Missed on me.
Eyeball monster. It was crazy.
And so I want to know where Anthony Davis is, where he is on that, because obviously, like we said earlier, the whole season revolves around him. I don't know if there's anything about Cooper Flag I'm going to learn or hear about or see. Or like Jason Kidd has already talked about it. They want to use him as a guard. That's interesting, but already been said. And that's where I am on that. And then obviously, I think for all of us, there's like hierarchy on where certain players are. Like, do you learn like if a coach thinks of highly of another player compared to another one, like especially the players that just got brought in?
Yeah, I think that you learn a little bit more during training camp than you do at media day, just because it's a week long of just asking players about practice, and whoever they keep bringing up is the guy that's kind of performing the best, and especially the ones that they keep bringing up unprompted. So I'm kind of more interested in training camp than I am at media day, but still.
True. Well, I know the Mavs have gotten together a couple times already, so we could be getting some drops.
just as like a little heads up, if your GM and your coach won't do press together to start it, it's probably a bad sign. Small heads up there.
What if they don't do press? What if they won't do press together at all? Ever?
Jason Kidd has been
one time.
Jason Kidd has been elite during this process. He got extended? Yes.
No, not yet.
But there was talk about that. Stein reported.
There was talk there, but when the Knicks job thing came up, I was just waiting. I was just waiting for that extension to come in, and never did.
That's what a college coach would do.
He avoided blowback on the Luka thing, managed to basically duck under any of it and avoid any sort of being implicated in anything. Got mentioned for the Knicks job, and then is going to wind up using that to get an extension. It is pro level finessing by J Kidd.
Good for him.
That's what he does. Gentlemen, thanks for hanging out with me on Locked On NBA Squad Show. Go check out all these great shows. Link in the description wherever you're listening, watching this, to find those shows and all kinds of great stuff all over the place. Guys, thanks for listening to Locked On NBA Squad. Go listen to Locked On NBA Game Night, Locked On NBA Daily with many of us on the Locked On NBA podcast feeds.